Okay, so I'm quite aware that I'm a bit late with an sort of overview of the albums that I listened to from last year. Um, Now, originally this was going to be a bit longer of a video. I was going to do like top 25, but I've decided to go against that and just go for top 10. But I will include uh, number 20 through 11 in a screenshot maybe somewhere here. Not screenshot, but we'll just throw it on there. Um, because there are some albums there that I think are worth at least mentioning, sort of as an honourable mentions list. Um, Most notably things like Sound of Silence by Simon Garfunkel, which I thought was fantastic. No Words Left by Lucy Rose, who, if anybody watched any of my videos from, I think it was the start of last year, um, I took part in a video that Canadian Stud Muffin done where essentially you reevaluated an album that you hadn't listened to for a long time, and that was one of three albums that I did for that video. Um, and honestly, I thought it was really good. The first time I listened to it, I didn't really love it too much. Another one worth mentioning is probably Marika Hackman, which we'll probably get back to later. It was sort of indie folk music, and Björk, because that was the first album that I listened to last year and it managed to fit into the top 15. So we're going to go through the top 10. I'm probably not going to talk about many of them in a huge amount of detail unless I feel like it's necessary. Um, and we'll also have like a sort of award ceremony. Towards the end, I have a list of categories, and we have winners for each of these categories. Um, but I'll try and not hype it up too much. It's not going to be all flashy or anything like that. It's literally just going to be me talking about certain albums for certain reasons. Best and worst, you get it. So number 10, we start off with Scott Walker. Now, the album was Scott 3. I listened to Scott 4 um, last year, I think it was, might have been the year before, and that was one of my favourite albums, just period, to be honest. Like, you're probably talking like top 30 of all time. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Every single song was brilliant. Um, Sort of Baroque pop type of deal. And this is similar to that, although it felt a bit sort of, even though I think it was released only, it might even been released in the same year. Um, but it still felt a bit more old-fashioned, not in a bad way. That's just um, an observation of the music in the album. It felt like sort of, I don't know, like sort of 19 sort of 50s Disney animated movie music kind of thing. Um, and I like my Disney films. Your Peter Pan and all that, the original version. Um, and yeah, it was good enough to fit into number 10, I thought. I really liked Rosemary. It's Raining Today, probably my favourite. That was the opener on the album. Um, yeah, absolutely loved that. Um, Number 9. Now, this is Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. I think the album's actually self-titled, but it's more commonly known as Moanin'. Um, 19, I think it's 1959, something like that. And my problem with jazz music is I have a lot of trouble explaining why I think that it's good or why I enjoy it. I don't know. I find that jazz music is good for a lot of different moods. Um, and it's very useful because there's no vocals on it. Um, like sort of ambient music. I just sort of treat it like ambient music, particularly this kind of jazz. Um, it's good for when you're reading, or doing something like say this where you're writing out a list um, of video ideas, or say you're writing lyrics or something like that. It's good something that's good that I think is worth having on in the background, where it's not you don't need to pay an awful lot of attention to it, but if you do, it's still beneficial. Um, and it's I think it's considered to be one of the entry level jazz albums as well. Like if you're just getting into jazz, people will point you to Kind of Blue, I Love Supreme probably, and I would imagine this. So this is pretty, I've not listened to an awful lot of jazz albums. Um, and again, like I say, I still don't really know how to talk about it really. But if you like jazz, put it on. You'll probably like it. But the likelihood is, if you like jazz, you've probably already heard it and you understand why it's this high in the list. Number 8 is Mojave 3, and uh, the album's called Ask Me Tomorrow. Supposedly on Rate Your Music, where I used to log all the albums that I've listened to and rate them and things like that, um, and write about them as well briefly. The On the comments of that album, people are saying that this is going to get a reissue this year, and I hope so because I thought it was fantastic. It's very, very simple music. Like I know how to play most of the songs now, um, but it's just absolutely gorgeous. Like all the songs are just fantastic. I think a lot of them are acoustic, but they might not be. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to think what else there is to really say about this. Look, pretty important. This is Neil Halstead and Rachel Goswell from Slow Dive. If you like Slow Dive, then you might know about this. If you don't know about it, then give it a go. It's definitely not shoegazy though. Um, it's basically Slow Dive turned sort of acoustic with a bit of country in there, sort of. Um, so yeah, Slow Dive fan, listen to this. Um, and I'm hoping to get through more of this project, more of their albums because they don't make any more as far as I'm aware anyway. I don't think they're together anymore. They're probably just a hiatus though, more than an actual split. Number 7, Paul McCartney Ram. Now this is um, it's an album where I question why I waited so long to listen to it. Because it was on my radar for a good few years before I decided to finally go through the entire thing. Um, and a notable thing to mention about Paul McCartney, apart from the fact he was in the fucking Beatles, right, that's pretty obvious by now, is that Band on the Run is my favourite solo Beatle album. I've not listened to any of Ringo's, right enough. I've listened to two of John Lennon's and I've listened to one of George Harrison's. And I would say my two favourites are this and Band on the Run. So obviously Paul McCartney's winning on that. He's always been my favourite Beatle anyway. Um, but yeah, we have Uncle Albert on this album, and that was honestly I don't know how it managed to evade me this entire time. Like I wouldn't call myself like a Paul McCartney mega fan or anything like that. I mean I've only listened to two of his albums. We're still getting through that. But this song, it's like Band on the Run. The song itself, it's just got these incredible transitions throughout it. Yet it just works perfectly. I don't know, man. Paul McCartney is like a modern genius to me. Um, and like got its place at number 7. Number 6, Ben Stafford in the Garden. Now I don't think anybody watching this will know who this is. Um, but I discovered Ben Stafford in the middle of 2022, I want to say. I was just looking for somebody. Um, I was basically just looking for somebody a bit more modern folk music, um, or somebody who does more modern folk music, and this is where I landed. Um, Now, his second album, Beauty Penland, which I think is like a cottage in England somewhere. I think that's what he named it after. Um, that's a bit more sort of straightforward folk. Um, to me at least. But In the Garden has a lot more sort of experimental um, sort of features to it. Like there's certain songs where he uses a lot of what do you call it? Sort of samples of voices to create an atmosphere in the songs that he's done. So um, I can't remember what the actual song itself is called, but it creates this image of sort of being in the garden on like a summer's day. And all you can hear is like lots of voices of adults and kids and things like that. Um, and then it goes into like some sort of sweet violin music and things like that. It's really, really weird. I don't know how he does it. Um, there's a lot of sort of rewinded music as well. I don't really know what the term for that is. I don't remember, but it's something that the Beatles done, and many people have done. But I think it's done really, really well on this album, and it sort of separates it from just being a folk album at that point. It's a lot more sort of alternative than that. Um, and it works really well just sort of to play through. It's very, very seamless. So that is 10 through 6. Now we're in to the top 5. And number 5 is Fetus. And the album's called Nail. Another one that's kind of difficult to describe. It's a bit mental. It sounds like video game music, to be honest. It's from 1985. Um, and I don't know, it's very, very timeless, I would say, actually, in its own way. Put it this way, if you were to listen to this album, you'd have no idea that it was made in the 80s, sorry, the 90s. But yeah, it's kind of disgusting in some places, but at the same time, like the music fits that. It creates this atmosphere where even though it's a bit mental, it seems to make sense that it's a bit mental. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of shouting and whispering and sort of industrial sounds as well. It's a journey. It's a roller coaster ride of an album. Um, and yeah, it's absolutely worth giving a go if you're looking for something that's a bit very left field. Then definitely give it a go. Number 4. Now we're getting into the big guns. I mean, we're already in the big guns. It's the top 20 really, but now we're getting into the ones that I listen to. Well, one of them not so much, but two of them definitely. Number 4, the Murder Capital, Gigi's Recovery. I'm gonna go and say that this is the most underrated album from last year. I don't know anybody that already knew this album before I told them about it that didn't like it. Um, and even that, like, I don't know anybody who knew it before I told them about it in general. So, um, it's like modern post-punk. Um, and I mean, I think that really, generally, is probably the best way to categorize this album. Um, but there's a lot of really nice guitar riffs in here. Um, and there's a song on it called Ethel that I was obsessed with all the way through last year. It was my most listened to song according to um, my Spotify Wrapped, which I was going to do a video on, but I didn't bother with in the end. I figured it was just sort of, it's just it was a bit too late. I mean, I was a bit late with this as well, as you can tell, but um, yeah, Gigi's Recovery was absolutely special. In fact, I have it here, and it's not the only album here that I own. I think there's two here that I have, but this is one of them. Unfortunately, it's in a digipack. I mean, that's a pretty cool album cover as well. It's pretty nice. And the songs in the back are done in like a weird sort of oval type shape. I don't know. I don't really get it. Um, Existence and Exist are sort of the same song from different perspectives. It's really strange. Um, but yeah, I listened to this album a lot last year, and genuinely, if you haven't heard this album yet, definitely give it a go. If it's one of the albums that you didn't listen to from last year, I genuinely think it's brilliant. Um, and yeah, that's basically what I have to say about that. Number three. Now this is one I didn't listen to an awful lot, but I thought it was amazing. Um, and it's another one where it's like Dark Side of the Moon in the sense that you need to sort of listen to it in one sitting. Um, because again, it's very seamless the way it's put together. And that song's Oh Hiya, Didn't It Rain? Um, what I gathered from this album there, it was very, very minimalist, sort of recordings, and very, very dark. I mean, I'm pretty sure the guy that wrote this album passed away like in 2005 or something like that, maybe 2003. Not long after, not long after recording a couple of his last albums, and I think they're put into two separate aliases. But I guess that's probably why I didn't listen to this an awful lot, even though I do listen to a lot of really pretty depressing music, or at least slower, on the slower side as well. Um, that's probably why I don't listen to this an awful lot, is it is pretty dark from what I remember of it. But it got into the top five, and I feel like it was justified. Um, Number two, and this was number one for a very, very long time until the very end of the year when I watched slash listened to something. Um, but number two is Paramore, This Is Why. And Paramore's a strange one because I always considered Paramore to be one of those bands that it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the kind of music that I listened to. I don't listen to pop punk an awful lot. I mean, I like Green Day, but I don't really listen to them an awful lot. I need to be in the mood for it. Um, it was something that was probably a bit more popular to me. Not popular to me, but I enjoyed it more when I was probably like 10, 9, something like that. Basically, when Burnout 3 was still a game that I played a lot because there was a lot of pop punks and regular punk. I'm pretty sure the Ramones were in that game. Um, but this wasn't like that. This was, I don't know, it felt kind of new wave in a weird way. It was like sort of new wave, sort of post punk. Um, I don't know. They've really transformed their music with this. Um, and another album before this, After Laughter, was meant to be sort of like that as well. But um, basically, how I came to know about this album and how I came to know about the music, because it's not like I go out my way to find out what Paramore's music is like usually. But Justin Hawkins from The Darkness has his own channel called Justin Hawkins Ride Again, and he was talking about the title track from This Is Why when it released, and it's the first time in a long time where like I've listened to the singles of an album and been genuinely excited for it to release. Because I mean, it's Paramore. Like for me, Paramore was like a sort of just something I wasn't ever gonna listen to because I didn't feel like it was for me. But listening to the single, This Is Why, really changed my mind on that. Um, and I must have been like one of the first people to listen to the album because I listened to it at midnight when it released back in February, last February. Um, it must have been like just a couple of days ago actually. It would have been um, an actual year since it released. It's only been out just over a year. Um, but yeah, every single was great. Even the ones that came out after the album release, which my favourite song was this, Running Out of Time. Um, it's a bit of a pandemic album, I think, in its own way. Like songs like The News definitely sort of tells that story, and I think Run Out of Time does similar as well. This is why the title track as well. This is why I don't leave the house. Um, that's pretty much the main hook. Um, but yeah, Paramore blew me away last year. Yet they didn't manage to come first still, because I watched Stop Making Sense by Talking Heads. Now, Talking Heads, I've always liked Talking Heads. I've never absolutely like adored them. Like I wouldn't have them on repeatedly. For me, that's probably the Smiths or the Cure at this point. But um, what I forgot to mention between 20 and 11, in 13th place was Speaking in Tongues. And I listened to that just before I watched this because I knew that was like the latest album that this was sort of. Don't think it was necessarily promoting, but I knew that the songs that were on this album were a part of it. And excuse me, what I knew is that they would be a part of this, and I felt like it was worth listening to as like a sort of appetizer for the concert gig. The concert gig, what the concert video, right? There we go. Stop Making Sense. I like the way this starts. I mean, I love the whole thing. We get to see them in action, and I've never seen like so much energy in a gig in my life. I don't think. I mean, I've seen Depeche Mode twice now, live, and Dave Gann is I don't know how he does it. He does a whole lot of spinning and running up and down and things like that. Um, swinging his arms for some of the songs and things like that. Um, and even he doesn't lay a fucking scratch on what David Byrne is like on stage. There's a point in the in the set list where I mean he's dancing in a lot of the songs. He's there's one where he actually runs around the stage like multiple times and then goes back to like just jogging on the spot, and everybody else on the stage is doing it at the same time. It's just so much fun to watch. Um, and yeah, it's another one where I put it off for a long time and I don't know why. Because I don't know, I really don't know why I did it. It's just it's a really, really fantastic uh, uh, concert to feel like you're a part of, is how I would say that. Um, and even songs from their other project was a part of this. Sort of Tina Weymouth, the bass player from the band. There was a couple of songs on that. I don't remember what the project is called. I'll just throw it up here somewhere if I remember. Um, but yeah, fantastic front to back. Just I don't know. It kind of left me a bit speechless once I was done with it. It was just honestly that good. And yeah, so that's the top 20. Now we get into the album awards. Now these are all awarded and rated by me. And we're going to start off with the best new album. Now I'm going to basically consider this as basically all the albums that I listened to from 2023, and well, the one that came out on top was This Is Why. So, hey, um, This Is Why wins that hands down. Like, I mean, yeah, I listened to that a lot all the way through the year, so I think it's earned it, and it wasn't in second place. It was in first place pretty much all year. Um, the worst album of last year that I listened to. I don't know if it was released last year, although I guess I could quickly just check that. Um, because I don't remember when it was released. And it was last year, okay. I'll throw it was, I mean, it's categorized as death metal. I don't know. It was just death. It was shit. It was that bad. Like, unlistenable, basically. Um, and it was a VTubers album. Now, last year, just a quick side note, okay, some friends and I, we had a sort of listening party with a couple of albums. I don't know, it was probably about 2 months we done it for last year. We listened to an album every Saturday, and we decided to rate it. And this was a unanimous, like pretty much if you could give an album a 0 out of 10, you would give it a 0 out of 10. That's how we felt about this. It was referred to as things like a riff salad. And I don't know, because I quite like salad, and this was shit. So it was called OB Katy Cat. I don't know if that's how you actually say it, but that's what I'm going to call it. Self-titled, I think it was. Awful. Just like, if you were to physically play this album, it would be impossible. I don't understand what they've done with the drums, but it was like, I don't know, just unexplainably, like unplayable as well too. So there you go. The less said about that, the better. To be honest, I spent way too long on that. Third category, the most surprising album. As in, I had no real expectations, but it surprised me. Ask Me Tomorrow by Mojave 3. I didn't expect anything from that album, especially considering how people talk about it online. People either absolutely love it or just think it's meh. And I wasn't sure how I was going to fall under that, or where on the spectrum I was going to fall there. But I thought it was pretty surprising how good it was actually in the end. So that's that. Most underwhelming album, as in I had high expectations and it didn't deliver. Bookends by Simon Garfunkel. Now this is all pretty high reputation, and I held Simon Garfunkel in pretty high regard myself. Like I said earlier, I love Sounds of Silence, and of course I love Bridge Over Troubled Water. I can't decide which one of those I prefer, but Bookends I was expecting to be sort of up there with those, and it just wasn't. I didn't really, I didn't really care for it, to be honest. Yeah, I might need to spend more time with it. The one, two, three, four, fifth category, I think there's 12. Best song discovery, definitely Uncle Albert. We talked about this earlier. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that decision. I mean, although I listened to Ethel a lot, Uncle Albert, just from a musician's point of view, is just phenomenal. Um, Best album cover. And this is actually a Beach Boys album. I don't know why I love this album cover so much. I don't know. It's called Surf's Up. I didn't love the album an awful lot. It was one of those albums where like some of the songs were great and then some of them were just like, what is this? Um, but I don't know. I just really like the album cover for it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily representative of the music in the album. Um, I mean, some of them are quite cheesy and weird. But yeah, I'm gonna say Surf's Up was my favorite album from the albums that I listened to last year. Um, Worst album cover has to go to Love Lines by Nuevo Testamento. It's just, I don't know, it's pretty boring, basic album cover. Um, there's nothing really going on. It's plain white, and I'm pretty sure I think Love Lines is written in red or something like that. Yeah, a pretty underwhelming album cover for a very underwhelming album. Um, the most listened to album of last year. Now, this wasn't one that I had listened to for the first time last year, so this might be a bit of a surprise. Rum, Sodomy, and The Lash, and this was all before Shane McGowan died. I was listening to this an awful lot last year. I don't remember what the exact stats were, and I'm pretty sure in terms of stats it wasn't actually in first place when I looked at it on my last FM, but the way I'm seeing it is I know for a fact that I listened to it as a complete album more than anything else. The other ones I was like picking songs in and out. Um, Whereas this it was like front to back, front to back, front to back, you know. Um, and then he passed away at the end of the year, and I was like, why is it whenever I start listening to an album or a band, someone from there dies? It happened when I listened to The Smiths when the bass player died and things like that. So I don't know. It was just pretty sad, and I was pretty surprised that the Pogues Christmas song "Fairy Tale of New York" wasn't number one as a result. But okay. The most underrated from last year, Gigi's Recovery. Already talked about this. Um, it was just not only the most overrated from 2023, but the most underrated album from all of the albums that I listened to from last year. However, most overrated was Schlagenheim. People seem to really like this. This is a Black Midi album. I like Black Midi quite a lot. But similar to Surf's Up, not musically, but in the sense that some of the songs were great and some of the other songs were just a bit, um, I don't know, just not for me really. I feel like some of the singing from Jordy Greep was just a bit off-putting for the music as well. I'm pretty picky about my vocalists, let's just say that. Um, but there are songs on there that were really good as well, so it wasn't like complete garbage or anything like that. It was still like a good 6 or 7 out of 10, I would say, but um, people hold it in very high regard, and it's just not for me. Um, Best artist or best new artist, and the way I'm sort of judging this as best new artist that I hadn't heard before last year is Marika Hackman. We Slept At Last was the album that I listened to last year, and she released an album this year already called Big Sigh. It was one of the first albums that came out this year, I think. Um, and yeah, it's basically sort of indie folk music, is how I would probably categorise it. Sort of singer-songwriter. Um, and I listened to We Slept At Last quite a lot last year as well. Um, I mean, considering it fell into sort of just outside the top 10, more or less, just inside the top 20. It's probably underselling it a wee bit. It could probably be a wee bit higher, but she does have quite a lot of really nice acoustic songs as well. Like she has a song called Cigarette. It's like less than 2 minutes, but I've listened to that quite a lot since I got into her. That wasn't on the album though. That was on like I think it was, I don't know, like an acoustic session she done for like, I don't know. I was gonna say BBC, but it probably wasn't BBC. Um, but yeah, she's probably the best person that I hadn't heard of at all. That I listened to last year. And then best new band is going to be Paramore, and although I have heard of Paramore even way before last year, since they are a pretty big band, I'm still going to give it to them because just how much they changed my opinion of them. I really didn't think I would ever really listen to a Paramore album before last year, and then that happened. So yeah, I think I'm going to give that to Paramore. It just seems like it makes the most sense from my point of view. And yeah, that's the end of both the album awards as well as um, the video. So yeah, I've been talking for quite a long fucking time at this point, but I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. And let me know what you had that you listened to from last year. Not necessarily from the year 2023, but you listened to in the year 2023. Um, that were, you know, some of your favourites, your least favourites, favourite songs, least favourite songs, all that stuff. Things you think I should listen to, whatever, you know, let's just talk about it. Um, so yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you all had a good time, and I will see you all in the next one.